Hello, Trojan fans. Welcome to the Peristyle Podcast on a Wednesday. Yeah, we're right in the middle of Rivalry Week, getting ready for USC and UCLA. Got to talk about USC's big win over Nebraska. And in studio with me is Mr. Triple-Double himself, Connor Morrissette. He was covering the USC basketball game on Sunday, so we didn't get to hear from him on Tunnel Vision. So we want to get his thoughts on the Nebraska game, and then, of course, looking forward to the UCLA game and Notre Dame after that. But Connor's in studio with me. Connor, what are you doing, bud?
I'm doing well. Good to be here. We'll hear from players after practice today. Hopefully some guys who were dealing with the flu are back. That's a big story this week. USC dealing with the flu outbreak, which after we heard Lincoln Riley talk about it following the Nebraska game, you thought, oh, maybe that was a last week thing, but It seems like it's gotten worse this week. So that's just something else the team's dealing with, and I hope they all get better soon. No one likes having the flu, of course. That's not fun.
Yeah, Lincoln Riley was like, Jack asked him a question and he had to cough, and he's like, that's kind of the perfect answer. Like, he wasn't feeling good. You feel bad. You have to think back to that Michael Jordan flu game where he just went bananas, so. But I think Riley's answers were good. Like, no excuses. Like, yeah, we're dealing with the flu, but you just got to go out and play. But it affected practice. So who knows how it's going to impact the team. But, yeah, Riley didn't look too good.
No. He had the pneumonia last year, we all remember, and he missed, I think, 2 practices, but then came back and coached the Cal game. I think they moved some stuff around on Monday, more film than practice time because of this illness. So he's definitely going through it right now, but he thinks the worst is hopefully behind him, and he should be ready for Saturday because he said it's like a 36 to 72-hour thing. So if he's feeling bad on Monday, Tuesday, that should mean by Saturday he'll be good.
Yeah, I think Tuesday seemed to be like the worst day maybe when you guys got to talk to the coaches and stuff. And then hopefully things sort of taper off and everyone will be ready for the game late Saturday night. So we're getting all that. And, of course, the Nebraska game, too. If you have any questions or comments for the show, you can email us. That's a great way to get hold of us. Pac-12. it's not even Pac-12 podcast anymore. It's the Big Ten podcast. But podcast@uscfootball.com is the email address for this show. We're not talking about the Big Ten show I do. This is the USC show, podcast@uscfootball.com. You can also call or text us at 424-254-9141. I think we got a text this week. I don't think we have any voicemails, but if you do that, we'd love to play your voicemail on the air or read your text. That's fine, too. And if you have the Apple Podcasting app, you can leave us a 5-star rating and a review over there. If you have Spotify, you can also leave us a 5-star rating. They don't have an opportunity to review there, but a lot of people, I think Apple's probably our most popular podcasting platform that people get the show. We do ask for reviews, and we got a new one. This is from a Duck fan, Ben in WDC. He says, Peristyle Envy. He says, as a Duck fan and a big consumer of Pac-12 and Big Ten podcast content, kudos to the team at uscfootball.com for having some of the best college football content out there. Consistently one of the best pods available. Best of the bunch covering USC as well. Highly recommend Ryan and his team for their consistent and informed work.
Wow, that's a Trader Joe's gift card, right?
I think we got to. It's a Duck fan, but we're going to have to send him a Trader Joe's gift card.
I don't care who you root for. If you say nice things, gift card.
Yeah, so thanks for that one. If you want to email me, Ryan@uscfootball.com, I will send you a Trader Joe's gift card. Speaking of Trader Joe's, my mom was just here, Connor, and we made several trips over to Trader Joe's. And it's funny, are you a breakfast person or not really?
It kind of depends on the day. Today, not so much. I was busy, so I just had one of those bars. But if I have time, yeah.
It depends. Like, same thing with me. It depends what I'm doing that morning, whatever. She does like doing the breakfast. We usually make tea and stuff in the morning. I'm not a coffee guy. I do drink tea, and it's because of my mom. But I picked up some cereal. That's the normal cereal I get. It's Super Nutty Oat Clusters cereal, and
wow.
I've always liked it. My mom was like, oh, my God, this is really good. I'm like, it is. So cut up some bananas or put some raisins or something in there. Definitely, it's a Trader Joe's brand cereal. Make sure you check it out. And then one night, we kind of went out a bunch, but she likes to make. We made a quick dinner. I think it was for the Tyson fight on Friday night. But it's the frozen penne from Trader Joe's. It's a spicy marinara sauce. Go check it out. It's a spicy tomato sauce, and I get the frozen Trader Joe's meatballs as well. Heat those up, big skillet. It was a really nice meal. I had the leftovers yesterday actually, but so a couple of things if you want to go check out over at Trader Joe's. Of course, they got all the Thanksgiving stuff going on there, but that cereal is really good. There's all kinds of like nutty clusters in there. It's a legit cereal.
I haven't had lunch yet. You're making me very hungry. Let's just.
Are they making you hungry a little bit?
Yes.
That's good. They also got some great wines over there.
Yeah.
There was a, if you like Pinot Noir, I think it's a Platinum Reserve, but go check it out. The Pinot Noir section, it's like $15, and I think it's normally like a $50 bottle if you're at a steakhouse or something, but it's on the Trader Joe's label. It's legit. So I got a couple bottles of those. Those are great for gifts and stuff too. You get the little wine gift bag, put that nice bottle in there, and it's great. Very reasonably priced. And thanks again to our friends at Trader Joe's, and we're going to send our Duck fan a Trader Joe's gift card. So USC fans, get in there. You want to get that was a great review though, so we appreciate what he was able to send us. So we like that.
You can't go wrong with Trader Joe's.
Okay, Mark is saying I never got my gift card. Let me see. So Mark, if you emailed me your info, I've sent a lot of gift cards, so I need to see. So I've got some in my inbox right now, but there's only a few. So I'm going to send another. I try to send them out like every couple of days. But if you already sent me an email, send it again, and I'll make sure if I sent it to you or not, and I'll let you know. But all right. Phew. Okay. So we got to talk about USC winning a game. We can't say USC's lost 4 or 5 anymore because they won. They've
won 2 of 3.
Yeah, Nebraska, 28-20 in the Coliseum. Of course, it was the debut of Jayden Maiava, starting his first game for USC, and played pretty well. There's some bounces that went his way and some that didn't, but the three touchdowns through the air, 1 rushing touchdown, 1 interception that was a pick 6 that wasn't very pretty, and then a fumble on a scramble. So 2 turnovers, 4 touchdowns. I think you take that ratio. You don't want it to get much worse than that. And of course, it could have been a little bit worse. But what were your overall thoughts on? If you want to start with Jayden Maiava's play or get into the game, whichever you want to go.
Sure, and I've been going back and forth with people on the Peristyle. So I'll just start. It was the right time to make a quarterback change because if you don't play Jayden Maiava at 4 and 5, then there's a real chance that he leaves in the offseason, and then you have no idea whether he could have been your quarterback of the future or not. Miller Moss, of course, was struggling. The time was perfect, and I have no qualms with making that move. He also played well enough to win, and USC did get the win. But overall, Ryan, I walked away from that game saying, as I've kind of said all along, it's not really about the quarterback at USC this season. It's more so about some of the other problems. And in this game, Lincoln Riley, he almost had a 50-50 split with run-pass. I would have loved to have seen what that would have looked like against Washington, against Maryland when they threw the ball 50 times. Maiava gifted Nebraska 10 points. He did have that great running touchdown at the end that sealed the win, but USC still needed the final play of the game to clinch that victory on defense. They had a missed field goal. The operation overall still isn't very good, and a quarterback change didn't really change my thoughts on this team. They are not as good as we had hoped, as we thought after they beat LSU, and changing a quarterback, even though it did provide a little bit of a spark, there are still some serious issues here, and people got on my instant analysis performance. They were like, you're being too negative, you're being too critical. After a bye against a Nebraska team that's lifeless on offense, I expected USC to be able to separate and put them away, and that just didn't happen. And Lincoln Riley, all season long, what has he talked about? We haven't been able to separate. USC changed the quarterback, and they have to win on the last play of the game on defense. They still didn't separate. Maiava thought he played well enough to win. Here or there, he made some mistakes for sure. It's never good when you gift the other team 10 points, but the issues that USC has, that's been the problem all year, we're still there, and changing the quarterback didn't magically fix anything, and that's kind of what I expected.
Yeah, I think you needed some hope, and this performance from Jayden Maiava gave USC fans some hope going into these last couple of games. It's not the season that anybody wanted. It's a underperforming season no matter how USC finishes, even if you win out. Just 7-5 again is not good enough, but you wanted some kind of spark. And I like the fact that he did bring something to the table. There was a level of aggression that maybe we haven't seen, but you're right. There were some bad mistakes. The fumble led to a field goal for Nebraska because you fumble the ball in your own territory and, already in field goal range, and the defense stepped up and played pretty well. And then, of course, the pick 6, that was not a good start to the to the was the second drive of the game or whatever it was. That wasn't. But it's one of those things where it did look a little shaky at first. It got better, and I use the analogy of like playing poker where you want to be the aggressor. If you're gonna, it's better to be raising and betting than calling, and if you're letting someone else dictate the terms, sometimes some breaks go your way because you're sort of leading the action. You're forcing it upon your opponent. But there was a bunch of balls that could have been picked off for sure. That's not taken away from it, but he was the aggressor out there, and we'll see how that translates. Like if UCLA's secondary, I think they're very capable of picking off some of those passes if you put them in their range. And some of those plays, if there was against UCLA, maybe that happens. But I think just the way the team had been playing, did this fix everything? They still got a bunch of problems. The fact that Nebraska is one of the worst special teams in the country, and they block a field goal. There's some of those mistakes are still bad, and they didn't separate. But I did like, and this was one of my keys, they did win the fourth quarter. That it was a 1-point game, and it probably they could have pushed it a little bit, but they get a really long drive in the fourth quarter. It ends in a touchdown, and you bump it up from a 1-point game to an 8-point game. And so I don't know if they could have went for 2 on that one. That would have been interesting to make it 9, but make it a 2-possession game. But I feel like in that case, it was like, okay, they did something. They didn't allow any points in the fourth quarter, and they scored a long touchdown, controlling the clock in the fourth quarter. So they did a little, not separation, but they did a little of it, I guess.
And they finally got breaks to go their way, which was huge. A couple of those Maiava passes certainly could have been picked, but you have the Kyron Hudson touchdown where it hits off his chest and then someone's helmet and he comes down with it. I thought the Deuce Robinson play early in the game, hell of a throw by Maiava, but the defensive back sort of misplayed that. And at the end of the game, USC gets away with that holding call. But hey, against Penn State, we saw what those DBs were doing against USC. I was glad that the officials kept their flags in their pocket on that last play. The big play to me, Ryan, in this game, Mason Murphy's good for one big mistake a game. And usually that's been really costly to USC. He made it in the fourth quarter against Nebraska. We all remember what happened next. USC has that great fourth down play, pitch to Marks. But the play before, Mason Murphy gets blown by. Maiava's hit as he throws. He's corked back to pass. And somehow the ball gets completed to Makai Lemon, who he didn't even mean to throw it to. Like at worst case scenario, that's a pick six. And I feel like in games past, like that break doesn't go USC's way. And if it's not a pick six, then USC has to punt. Like that was just a lucky play where Maiava gets hit and it somehow gets completed to Lemon, and then USC on the next play is able to come up with the big gainer on that fourth down. I totally agree with everyone being excited and happy and loving Lincoln Riley for that great fourth down play call, but let's not forget what happened the play before. Like, how many times have we seen this movie this year where Mason Murphy gets beat and it leads to a turnover or an incomplete pass or just a mistake, and on that occasion somehow USC gets the ball completed. Yeah. So looking at it from 30,000 feet, it's nice that they won this game, but like they got some breaks to go their way that weren't going their way earlier in the year. They didn't take some big step forward like I really was hoping after a bye week. And maybe with a quarterback change, I was expecting too much. You're always going to have some bumps and bruises. And I'm not trying to write off Maiava at all. He started one game. Like, he could certainly have a great career at USC. He just has to cut down on the turnover-worthy plays. He can't keep putting the ball in harm's way. He's sort of been boom or bust in his career in that regard. So that's the big glaring weakness with him. But everything else I really like overall. So I'm not trying to make any definitive conclusions other than the step forward that I was hoping USC would take, even with a new quarterback. Like, that didn't really change the equation as much as I expected it to. And I see a lot of people thinking, oh, USC would be undefeated if Maiava had started the whole year. I just don't see it the same way.
Yeah, I would agree with you. There's a lot of other USC problems, and changing quarterbacks didn't fix all of them. So I want to give a little shout out here. Wow! That was a weird one. I thought this was hold on. Okay, that's what I thought was coming. Woody Marks.
Yes.
Team awesome. MVP, over 1,000 yards rushing on the season. Now, maybe you want to go, it could be USC's punter. You could do, but I'm going to go with Woody Marks. But just congrats to him, over 1,000 yards. He
was awesome. Again, that pitch play won USC the game, set him up for that touchdown. And he was just phenomenal. He's been phenomenal all year.
Yeah.
It's been fun to watch USC's evolution in the run game because I think Marks did have 2 touchdowns against LSU, right, at the beginning and at the end. But, USC did not run the ball very well in that opener. Marks only had 68 yards on the ground. Against Michigan, Marks had the one big run that got him to 100 yards, but they really struggled to run the ball in that game. And it's gotten so much better here against Penn State. They did a nice job running the ball. Minnesota, Marks had a great game. Washington, Marks was really good. Nebraska, he's consistently put up big numbers, and that's why he is the team's leading rusher every week, and he's over 1,000 yards this season. It's been fun to I feel like he's always been pretty good, but the offense has gotten better, and that's helped him improve his outputs. But he's been a star from the jump, and Lincoln Riley continues to hit on these transfer portal running backs, and that's obviously a really good sign this year and one of the bright spots in an otherwise kind of disappointing season here.
Mark in the chat says, who's been in charge of getting these portal running backs? He says porthole, so that's a Gerard thing. Porthole running backs, 3 straight years of hits. Yeah, I think they've had 4 hits in 3 years with you also had Austin Jones from Stanford the same year as Travis Dye.
It starts with Riley, but that's a credit to their scouting people and to the running backs coaches. Kyle McDonald deserves a lot of credit because he was still recruiting Marks. I forget exactly how the timing played out, but when he was with the Chargers, I think he still was able to tell Marks, hey, this is still a good spot when Anthony Jones came in. So Kyle McDonald deserves credit. Lincoln Riley deserves credit. The scouting department deserves credit. That's been a position that they've done a really nice job at.
Yeah, for sure. It's been very helpful to have some really great veteran running backs, season after season, rolling through and being good leaders on the team too. They're not just good players, but they've all been helpful and just good leaders and people that are good in the locker room, along with being great players on the field. We do have some breaking news on the recruiting front. We don't talk a ton of recruiting here, but even I did a Mason and Ireland hit, and they were even talking about it there. It's a big deal when quarterbacks flip and change, and I think it's a good sign where there was some, after USC loses, 4 of the 5 games, and then decommit with Lowe and all that stuff, and being able to pick up Hussein Longstreet, and that was a big deal. And the sort of ongoing saga with Juju Lewis, I was getting tired of it. I was definitely tired of the Cam Rising, is he going to play or not, for 2 years of just injury reports. I was tired of this. If you're going to be committed, be committed. Start recruiting for the school that you're committed to. If you're just going to be wavering and taking visits all over the place, just move on. It seemed like this long distance relationship that no one wanted to break up with the other side or whatever reason. But it's finally happened. I think it needed to happen. But I wanted to get your thoughts on that and USC basically swapping quarterbacks over the weekend.
It was nice to see them target someone and really be aggressive with it. They had Longstreet on campus the week before, and then Luke Heward goes to his game on Friday, and then he's in the Coliseum Saturday, and he committed in the locker room after the win, and then the news broke on Sunday. It was nice to see them, even though it was late in the game, have a plan and execute it. This was also a big win for USC's NIL setup and House of Victory. Longstreet's going to get a pretty chunk of change here at USC, as he should, because quarterbacks are so important. So that was nice that they had that all done and dusted, and they dotted their I's and crossed their T's with that. It's a win for sure, and I'm with you, Ryan. I was getting sick of the Julian Lewis stuff too. It would have been great if they dropped them earlier, but then we would have killed them if they dropped Lewis earlier and then they didn't lock this down. So the timing of that all worked out. The last thing I'll say on it, though, is I need to see USC recruit defensive linemen and positions that just historically they haven't done as good of a job doing. Lincoln Riley was always going to get a quarterback, and if he hadn't, then that would be a huge problem. But I'm glad that they have a quarterback in this class. They don't go 2 straight classes without a QB. Let's get some recruiting wins in other areas where they haven't done as well, and then that would show me that there's real progress here. You know what I mean? With Riley, you're going to get a quarterback no matter what, I feel like.
I don't know. It's getting a little dicey there.
Yeah, yes. But I just don't want to move the goalpost where it's okay. It's good that they got this quarterback, of course. I'm not trying to say it's bad, but that should be a layup. And they made the layup. Now let's make a 3-pointer.
Yeah. You should be able to recruit quarterbacks with one hand tied behind your back, right? That's just what you do. Just get the quarterback. But now go out and get defensive line. But I think it's good just to have the local kid versus the Georgia kid and maybe this is sort of like helps Lincoln Riley get his mind out of we're recruiting somewhere else instead of our own backyard. He just has this aversion to recruiting Southern California for whatever reason. And even if you think the players aren't as good, there's still plenty of good players that we've seen gone to other places and succeed. I think you just have to be a part of that landscape. It's in your backyard. You need to be bringing some guys that you don't think are going to be the super studs, but just bring them in anyway because they're local. Like I think there's something to be said for being able to do that. And when programs get away from doing it, it's almost like the grass is greener somewhere else. Like you usually get burned. We've seen dudes, even USC would stop recruiting and they'd go to like Oregon or something and have a great career. Like, why didn't you recruit that guy? He grew up loving USC. Just have him on your roster, And we've seen guys that not only just have done well, but they moved on to the NFL, and USC sort of like passed on them as a local kid they didn't think was going to perform well, and they end up performing well somewhere else. So I think you'd rather have a guy on your roster that's local, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But as opposed to now you're missing on guys like 2,000 miles away. I think it's just the strategy I haven't really agreed with, I guess.
Totally, and local kids can flip too. We saw Hayden Lowe, but looking at just USC since they've brought in this new defensive staff, recruiting guys from the South, like, of course, if you land the guy, it's great, but it's so hard to keep those guys in your class, whereas it should be easier to keep local guys in your class because you're just closer to them and you can have them at the Coliseum all the time. Like, looking at USC's class right now, so Ty Jackson, the linebacker from Florida, I've talked to Gerard a bunch about him. Like, this is a mystifying recruitment where he's gone quiet. Hopefully he sticks with USC, but they really don't know. Carday Smith looks like he might flip, the offensive lineman from Mobile, Alabama. Then USC has two running backs right now. Dwayne Morris, who's from Tennessee, looks like he's going to flip to Tennessee. And USC's trying really hard to keep Harry Dalton, a running back athlete prospect, in their class. Alabama is looking at him. When they're from that part of the country, like, you can't really blame them for being courted by those schools that are over there. So we'll see where USC finishes. I'm not trying to write them off before they've locked these guys down. They're still all currently committed to USC. The overall point is it should be easier to keep the guys locally committed to you than it is to keep those guys who are further away because you're just not around as much. So Hayden Lowe, again, goes against that argument that I just made. It's not an exact science, but it makes a lot of sense where, like, look at LSU. Every top prospect from Louisiana, pretty much, except for maybe Jakeem Stewart, goes to LSU. That's just kind of what happens every year. They've put a fence around that area, and they lock it down. It would be nice if USC did the same thing in Southern California.
Yeah, agree with you there. Well, let's talk about the flu. USC getting ready for the Bruins, UCLA. They had won 3 straight games before kind of a clunker game Friday night in Seattle. Seattle, Washington is very good at home. They haven't lost since like 2018 or something like that, or 2019. But they stink on the road. And UCLA went up there, thought they could keep it close, but too many mistakes. They just weren't able to finish. I mean, I think UCLA probably looked like the better team to me, just overall.
On defense, they did, I think.
Yeah, they've been very feisty on defense. And, they had some, with Ethan Garbers, they had some good success in the passing game. UCLA can't run the ball, so it's not like USC that went up there and didn't run the ball. UCLA is just bad at it. But there's just too many. I've seen the last couple weeks for UCLA, their defense would get off the field and someone would, be a 15-yard penalty and keep a drive going. And it really killed them in Seattle. It's just they weren't able to overcome some of these major mistakes there. So, I'm just get your thoughts on USC kind of getting ready for this game. It's a team that certainly, they've won 2 more road games in the Big Ten than USC has. This would be USC's first Big Ten road win if they're able to get it. I think, was it like a 4.5 point spread or something?
Yep.
Like USC's favored by like 4.5, but this is, coin flippy kind of game. You just go out and you got to play well. So I'm curious to see what happens, but with what you saw yesterday with the flu and everything, where do you think about USC's prep right now?
They just got to get people healthy, but D'Anton Lynn talked about they're doing some stuff on Zoom and guys are watching film on their own. So the flu certainly isn't helping. we've seen people have success when they've been sick. Like Woody Marks last week, Riley said he was sick and he had a great game. So it's not like if you're sick, you're just automatically playing bad. But I don't see how this possibly is a good thing, of course. So that's just another sort of saga here this week leading up to this big rivalry game. And I've watched UCLA probably the most out of any team outside of USC because typically, like when they played Nebraska, it was the week before USC played Nebraska, and same with Rutgers. So like I would just, to prepare for the USC game, would watch their opponent, whoever they'd play the week before, and it happened to be UCLA. I watched them against Penn State. It was the same situation. And then against Washington, I just wanted to watch them because they're playing USC this week, so I've seen them a lot. The advanced numbers and just the statistics with UCLA, you'd think that they're terrible. They do not look very good on paper, and like third down defense, they have the worst unit in the country. They are one of the most penalized teams in the country. Like it just doesn't look like they would be a good operation, but they did have the 3-game winning streak. They have the 2 more road wins in the Big Ten than USC does. This is certainly a game where if USC doesn't play well, UCLA could beat them. And then there's a whole other factor here where it's the rivalry, and D'Anton Foster went to UCLA, of course. He's UCLA through and through. And I'm curious, Ryan, for your thoughts on this. How does that impact this rivalry where, of course, USC knows it's a big game and Lincoln Riley knows it's a big game, but it's different, I have to imagine, when your head coach went to that school, lived through this rivalry, was a part of it. Those guys are going to be hyped up. UCLA needs to win 2 games here to make a bowl game. Like, how big of a factor is that? I imagine it has to be somewhat big. It's tough to quantify, but like those guys are going to be ready to go, I feel like, and we'll see how USC is able to match that.
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously a huge game for the city and for both schools and all that. And I was going back and forth with David Woods, who we do the podcast of Champions together, and talking about, you're in the Big Ten now. Both these teams are like mid to lower mid, and is it taking some of the shine away from the game? It's a 7:30 p.m. kickoff, 10:30 Eastern. What's on the line? Like the Gronk Bowl or something could be on the line. Like this, it doesn't have that same sort of feel. And with Woody Marks is a great player and USC's MVP. He didn't know anything about this rivalry until he got there, got to campus, several months ago, wherever it was. It's different than when it was sort of like USC was recruiting both schools, or UCLA, they were recruiting the same players and all that. A lot of transfers. And with, players being like free agents, Kyle Ford goes from SC to UCLA and then back. There are some players, D'Anton Lynn being at USC, Kamari Ramsey, John Humphreys. There's some of that. There's maybe some animosity there a little bit. The fact that D'Anton Foster played, I think that's a really good point. Lincoln Riley's been around a couple of years. He kind of knows what this means. It was a really big win. Corey Foreman got the interception in the Rose Bowl 2 years ago, and then, Chip Kelly just kind of blows him away last year in the Coliseum. So I think the players have been on the team. It means something. But it's for an older player like D'Anton Foster, like it definitely means something to him. And especially on the UCLA side of growing up and knowing about this rivalry for a long time, when USC was really good and UCLA wasn't, like you made your season by beating USC. And it's happened a bunch where that was sort of like UCLA put all their eggs in that one game. So I think for a guy like Foster, he knows that, and he's been a part of it. But it's the fact that both teams are fighting for bowl eligibility and not for, a spot in the playoff and all that. That takes a little bit of the shine off of it. It's still great to see both home uniforms and all that, but the stakes aren't as high. And so, yeah, it's a little bit, and with the transfers and stuff, a guy like Miller Moss, I think it would mean a lot to him if he was a starter, and Jayden Maiava doesn't know much about this rivalry. It's going to be important. It's his second start for USC. But like a kid like Moss who grew up, loving USC, there's probably just more passion for this game than some of the guys that transferred in and didn't really, experience that. So I don't know, long answer there, but that's kind of my thoughts.
No, I'm with you too. And I think like USC is of course going to play hard, but I just don't, it's impossible to quantify. I just feel like they'll have a little bit even more of an edge because Foster hates USC, and I'd have to go back and look, but like, was he not recruited by USC? He went to Tustin, right? And he had that great high school career, and he was awesome at UCLA. Like, is that part of it? Maybe he has.
It could have been, yeah. I don't know. I don't know if he was recruited. I don't remember that. Gerard would know.
Yeah, looking at our board, someone talked about how USC wasn't after him. And I mean, hey, that was like the golden age, so I would understand USC ended up just being just fine. So I think like the whole point I'm trying to make is that will add a lot of spice to this game. And UCLA, they're going to come out fired up. Could they be too hyped up and make some mistakes, and that plays into USC's hand? Sure. But they have a million reasons to be playing really, really hard. And their coach going to UCLA, being an alum, like that sort of, I think, gives them a little bit of an edge here. And USC on paper, do they have the better roster? I think so, but it's at UCLA, and that stuff that you can't really quantify, I feel like that UCLA, that they have it going for them.
Yeah, but if you do look at, like Washington, the advanced stats, like they thought they were, I mean, you look at that, it's a very good team, right? And UCLA not as much. But UCLA still was able to go get some wins. I mean, they shut down the run defense for UCLA, I think, is, kind of concerning because, they were able to shut down Iowa. Was it Caleb Johnson?
Yep.
Yeah, like they did a really good job against him. And that's a big win. Like that's Iowa was playing pretty well. And for UCLA to get that win, they were able to take something away from what, but I don't think the pass defense is going to be as good. And we'll see what USC does offensively. Obviously with Jayden Maiava, you want to, maybe you want to run the ball a little more 50-50. Nebraska had a really good run defense, and they played well early, and then USC kind of got it going later on. So I'm curious what they do sort of with UCLA trying to like run the ball, but also I think UCLA's DBs have been able to make plays, and they've made big mistakes, sure, and they've big pass interference or roughing the pass or whatever it is, extending drives. They've had some of those really bad penalties that extend drives, but they can get their hands on the ball too. And I think I was talking to David Woods about this, and he's like, if Jayden Maiava puts as many balls into like UCLA DB's hands as he did against Nebraska, there's going to be 3 or 4 picks instead of 1. And so that's where you're going to kind of watch this one, because the run defense is good, but they can make plays with the pass defense. And if you're going to put the ball in harm's way, it might not turn out as well as it did Saturday at the Coliseum.
I see it similarly, and I had a post on our board this week about how I really do like Maiava, but his fatal flaw is the turnovers, and it's been that way since he started at UNLV. He's had 12 career starts and 26 turnover-worthy plays, which is just not sustainable. So if he can get that eliminated, if Lincoln Riley can coach that out of him, I think the sky's the limit for this guy. But he's now making a second-ever start at USC. UCLA, they picked off Will Rogers twice. Could have been 3 times if they didn't get a roughing the passer penalty on one of them. Like, it's a defense that, are they great? No. But Jay Toya is solid. That edge rusher they have, Oladejo, he's an NFL prospect. Their linebacking core is really good. Their secondary, I think, is sort of so-so. That didn't help with Kamari Ramsey and John Humphrey leaving, of course. No. But, like, it's a defense that will force Maiava into making throws that he probably doesn't want to make and force him to be uncomfortable. And historically, he's not been great in those areas. So we'll see how he responds. And it's a fascinating chess match to me in that regard. It's a quarterback who turns the ball over a lot, and it's a UCLA defense who does a nice job of getting turnovers.
The turnover-worthy plays, was that a PFF?
Yes, that's PFF.
So how many did he have in the Nebraska game?
He had 3, which is a season high for any USC quarterback. And if you're trying to say how the heck does that make sense when Miller Moss threw 3 interceptions against Washington, the pass to Kyle Ford they didn't rule as a turnover-worthy play, and I don't believe they ruled the Hail Mary interception as a turnover-worthy play just because that was like a huck-it-up situation. But
okay.
I mean, by definition, that probably should be a turnover-worthy play. So those stats, they're not perfect like all PFF stats are, but I think in the aggregate, like I compared it to Maiava's turnover-worthy plays to Moss. Like Moss has 10 career starts, 12 turnover-worthy plays. Not great, but fine. Maiava 12 career starts, 26 turnover-worthy plays. He's a gunslinger. He takes chances.
He does,
and what has been a big issue for USC's offense this year, the turnovers. So something they got to work on, and that's the big reason why I wasn't blown away with Maiava in that first game. He gave Nebraska 10 points. If they have a better offense, they'd probably win that game. And USC, of course, still made enough plays to win, but it was closer than it should have been.
Yeah. If you guys remember Brett Favre.
Yeah.
People remember some of the amazing plays. He's a gunslinger guy. Yeah. He also has the most interceptions ever thrown in the NFL history, right? So he's made a lot of plays like that too. I think there's a ratio there you have to sort of keep above it. 3 turnover-worthy plays, probably not good. I think they probably gave both of his turnovers. The pick six was certainly turnover-worthy, and I think the fumble probably was too, the way he was holding it. And then in aggregate, there was probably 3 other throws that could have been. And I don't know. I was curious if it was going to be 4 because of there were some other plays that just looked like that could have been. But, the one he was hit, it was just lucky that it was completed. But it certainly could have been picked off.
Yeah, I don't think that's on him as a turnover-worthy play because he was crushed. But, like, the Kyron Hudson touchdown, I mean, that ball goes right through the defensive back's hands. The Deuce Robinson completion early in the game, I don't think that's a turnover-worthy play. But that was close to, maybe being a turnover. Like, there were a lot of those passes. And I'm going to get hammered for this. I don't care. Miller Moss put the ball in harm's way too much, too. But, like, the reason you make a quarterback change was to try to get rid of that. And I felt like the guy who came in did so in a worse way. So that was a problem. And it's one game. I'm not saying he's going to do that every game. He could have a fantastic game against UCLA, and we'll talk about it, and we'll give him all the credit in the world. But, like, that was one of the big reasons you make a quarterback change outside of all the transfer portal stuff. Like, throw that to the side for a second. USC couldn't separate in games with Moss, and there were too many turnovers. Against Nebraska, they couldn't separate, and there were too many turnovers. So, that kind of – it is what it is. He needs to get better, and he only started one game, so let's give him the opportunity to get better.
Dylan says Moss had at least 5 turnover-worthy plays against Washington defense. A defensive end dropped a walk-in pick six.
His 2 turnover-worthy plays were that one and then one of his picks. The Kyle Ford one, like,
yeah, I don't know if this was 5.
Like, off his hands.
I think that's just someone that doesn't like Moss, right? Like, it's – and the PFF's not perfect, but, they were saying 2, not 5, so –
yeah, Maiava's 3 turnover-worthy plays were the most of any USC quarterback this season. I think.
Yeah, so we'll see. You just can't put the ball in harm's way as much. I'm not saying you can't do it at all when you put in a guy with a high ceiling.
Yeah, football's risky. You got to take a risk. We're not saying that, but don't go crazy with it. And he went a little crazy with it against Nebraska.
Yeah, you got to go it's funny in the poker analogy world. It's like you would much rather be the aggressor. There's an expected value just by raising, you could win the pot. Like, you could have a worse hand, and just by putting pressure on your opponent, there's a chance of winning the pot. Now, they have a great hand. They're not going anywhere. But if you did it 100 times, like, they don't have a great hand every time. Just over time, you just being the aggressor is going to be, it's going to pay off. Like, your expected value is going to be much better than if you were just calling every time you had a good hand, because then you have to wait for a good hand as opposed to, I have trash, I have good hands, I'm raising you, and now I'm putting pressure on you. And so, yes, if I kept doing that at inopportune times and it was burning me over and over again, it's not going to work. But I think in general, you like the upside. You just have to sort of limit the really bad plays. And they had 3 of them that were worthy of being turnovers. They only got 2, so that's at least it didn't all become turnovers.
And let's give them the opportunity here to get better. Like, just because historically at UNLV last season and in his first game, he put the ball in harm's way more than we would have liked, doesn't mean he can't change, doesn't mean this is who he is permanently. It's only one game under Lincoln Riley. Like, let's give him an opportunity to get better. But I will say, everyone who's just all pants off for him and it's like, this saved our season and, we got the guy for sure. Like, I don't know how you could possibly think that Nebraska performance warranted him being the starter 1,000% next year. Like, He gifted the other team 10 points. You cannot do that.
Yeah. But it's his first start, and you give him a benefit of the doubt and the breaks and stuff. And USC deserved some breaks the way the season has gone. There have been a lot of bad breaks. So I think at least it's giving people some hope.
Yes.
You need some hope. Hope, is
it's
important.
the hope that kills you.
Yes. So hopefully people show up to the Rose Bowl Saturday night, 7:30 p.m. I'm regretting my decision I was going to not go, and now I'm going. It's like, oh my God, that's going to be getting out. I'll get home at like 2 in the morning, 2:30 in the morning, something like that. It's going to be rough, but hopefully you guys can come out there, and it might be raining even. I don't know. We'll see. All right, well, why don't we do this? Let's take a quick break, and we will come back and do some questions. Back in a minute, everyone. All righty. We are live on YouTube and Facebook. I don't know if we have any comments from our Facebook feed, but if you have any questions that you want to ask us and you're watching us live, put it in the chat and I will star it and come back to it, and we will be able to answer any questions that you have. So check it out. Yeah, just get in there. And if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube live, we appreciate that. Thank you very much for doing it. Let's go to John in Oakland. He has an out-of-the-box thought.
Okay.
What do you think of the idea of Lincoln Riley hiring an offensive coordinator, specifically the offensive coordinator at Clemson, his brother, Garrett Riley? I'd have to assume that Lincoln would trust him, that they have similar views on running an offense and play calling, and Lincoln would feel less threatened than he'd be after his job as a head coach. Garrett Riley's making $1.75 million at Clemson. Might Lincoln be willing to donate a couple million from his $11 million annual salary to get his brother to USC? Could this allow Lincoln Riley to take a step back and be more of a head coach and oversee the full team, especially during games and game planning? Thoughts, John in Oakland? I like how he's like, this was not just like a whimsical. I mean, he dotted his I's and crossed his T's here. So I like it. I mean, it's not going to happen, but I like it.
Lincoln Riley and Garrett Riley crossed over, I believe, at East Carolina, I think, or maybe he was already at Oklahoma, Lincoln was, but they haven't coached together much, if at all, and I think that's by design. I think that Garrett Riley wants to blaze his own trail, do his own thing. He went to Clemson as an offensive coordinator to set himself up to be a head coach. I think if he's taking any new job, unless it totally goes to crap with him at Clemson, which this year their offense has gotten better, he's going to be a head coach before he takes another offensive coordinator job, I think. So I understand the question, and it would make sense, but they haven't coached together for a reason. Garrett Riley wants to do his own thing, and I don't think being Lincoln's understudy and being his offensive coordinator appeals to him.
I 100% agree, but I like the out-of-the-box thinking. You're like, okay, so we need to reduce the salary a little bit. Well, what if his brother comes in and you give some of his money? Like, yeah, I don't think that's happening. It's a little wishful thinking, but I like that you didn't just say fire Riley or make him hire an offensive coordinator. He came about it in a way that was like, hey, we could make this work for everybody. We get it. We get what you want to see. I don't think Lincoln Riley's giving up offensive play calling.
No, they did overlap at East Carolina for 2 years. So Lincoln helped his brother get started like a good big brother should, and then I think this is the smartest thing to do. Go and prove it on your own. Don't ride your brother's coattails, and I have a lot of respect for what Garrett Riley's done, because in football, like, we see the nepotism, it can get kind of crazy. So credit to him for blazing his own trail, and hey, he was the Broyles Award winner for the nation's best assistant during that TCU run where they went to the national championship game. He's done really well on his own. It's been a little bit of an up and down performance at Clemson, but I still would think he's going to be a good coach and a good head coach at some point in the future. I
agree with you there, but it doesn't stop our listeners from thinking of ways to be creative. But okay, so Sir Eric of Troy sent us a text message. It was originally for the Coach Harvey Hyde show, but we did the show early on Sunday. So I'll read it here and get your thoughts on it. Connor, what is the deal with Zachariah Branch? Is he not really the explosive player we thought he was, or is he just not being used properly? I ask because I'm going to scream if I see him signal for another fair catch with no defender within 10 yards of him. And with the exception of the 6-yard TD catch he just had, I don't recall very much happening when they try to throw to him his way or on a jet sweep. Should we be getting more out of him than we are? Thanks for your thoughts, Sir Eric of Troy.
Definitely should be getting more out of him. But
yes.
I don't know. You never want to write off a guy completely, but what do you think? I mean, it certainly looks like he was probably a little overhyped coming out. So is that a mixture of, like, is it all him? No, the coaches probably could put him in a better spot, but, like, I don't know. I think it's just a tough sort of spot for him mentally. He seems maybe not in the greatest spot, trying to do too much with the punt returns. He had that one muff, so the fair catches, of course, like, were a response to that. I don't know. I don't want to write him off. I think he could certainly still be a good receiver, but he hasn't had the year that most people expected, and it's a mixture of reasons why.
Yeah, Mark in the chat says he seems to be in his own head, just thinking too much. I think there's some of that. There's some mental aspects to this. David Woods asked me this in a question when we were doing a question exchange for Bro and USCFootball.com, and I blamed the NCAA video game, or it's not NCAA, the college football video game. Like everyone was hyping up through all the offseason. He was like the fastest player on USC's team, making all these crazy plays for months, and then when he gets in the game, it didn't happen. And he had that, I believe he dropped a TD pass against LSU in the opener, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I am mistaken.
Did he? He had the Rutgers touchdown that looked like a touchdown, but then they overturned it.
I think he dropped one against LSU. Look at the chat, everyone. Let me know if I'm right on that one, because I told that to David, and maybe I was wrong with that. I thought he dropped it looked like he was going to score a touchdown against LSU and did not.
He had the kick return that he almost.
It was a good kick return.
You could be right. I don't remember that, but I'm not saying that's wrong.
Yeah, my memory's like going, but I believe that's so. Let us know in the chat if that's the case. But it just seemed to, after that game, it just never sort of materialized. And the punt return thing where there just seemed to be like plays like he shouldn't have, that one ball that was going out of bounds, he tried to catch it. I don't know if that was a punt or kickoff return. There's just been so many plays like that where it just didn't go his way. Now all you're getting is fair catches. He did have one decent return, I think, for 9 yards against Nebraska, but there was other opportunities he didn't return it where he should have. I like the fact that they sort of took something off his plate and let Makai Lemon return kickoffs, and he's done well doing that. And he got his first touchdown catch from Jayden Maiava. So Jayden Maiava's first touchdown throw as a USC Trojan, and then Branch's first catch of the season, TD catch of the season. So at least maybe get him going a little bit that way. But it's a mystery. I mean, you thought he'd be one of your best players. The people were saying, like, before the season, is he going to get 1,000 yards? We all said no way. Like it wasn't about him. It was more about there's too many dudes to spread the ball around. And every week a different guy is like the number one guy. But Zach Branch hasn't been that number one guy at all. And that's I think what USC fans want to see. One game where he's like the number one dude.
I do think he has trouble getting open, which is a surprise given his speed. But they didn't use him a whole lot as a receiver last year because of that. And this year, can you remember specific times where he's been wide open? He's had bigger plays as a decoy that have opened up opportunities for other guys than he's had success going down the field. I mean, he had the one big play against Michigan that I remember. Against Washington, he's had some nice opportunities, but like the biggest plays this year have been him as a decoy, the Quentin Joyner touchdown, the Deuce Robinson touchdown. So I think him not being able to separate and get open, which is a big surprise, has played into this too. Mark
says it was against Utah State that he had that drop. So it was the second game.
Yeah, okay, yeah. But there were two drops. I think Lane had one too.
And then Dylan from Albuquerque says, seems like whenever he gets opportunities, there's no room to run or separate. Yeah, and there was just he's not like going to be a contested catch kind of guy like Jacobe Lane. And, we've seen Kyron Hudson be able to do that. And I don't think that's his game, and they seemed like they were getting him the ball in those kind of situations. So
yeah, the problem is when you can't make those contested catches, then when they give you the ball in space, like it's predictable. That's why we see him get blown up consistently behind the line of scrimmage. So
yeah,
that's got to change.
We got an email from Rich in San Diego. He says, I liked what I saw on Saturday, but I will not give Lincoln Riley any kind of flowers. Lots of undisciplined plays, withholding, false starts, and 15-yard penalties. However, everything does look like we might see a light at the end of the tunnel. Pun, he said. That said, I do feel bad for Miller Moss because I don't see a way he gets back on the field in the Coliseum barring any injury. I wish him the best wherever he goes next year. He will kill it. Rich in San Diego.
Agree with all that. 5 penalties for 70 yards at halftime, the 2 unsportsmanlike conduct penalties, getting a kick block. Like the operation for a Week 10 game was not where it needed to be, I thought.
Yeah.
So I agree with him, and you got to feel bad for Miller. He waited all this time, and he was supposed to be the starter for these rivalry games, and now it's Maiava. That's got to eat at you as it would eat at anyone.
We got a couple of questions in the chat, and then we'll let Connor run off to go to practice. Not that he can watch anything, but he can do some interviews afterwards. From Dylan, is Jacobe Lane back? And why was he out last week, or was he out?
He was not out.
And Ajax said the same thing. Any intel on why Jacobe Lane didn't play? I'm guessing we know the reason, but just wondering.
He played 6 offensive snaps, so
just not a lot of play.
Yeah. I don't know for sure what it was, but we all remember when the Moss news and Maiava news came out, like Jacobe Lane fired off some tweets. So maybe did he not play in the first quarter because of that? Could he have been dealing with the flu? He was asked, Riley was, after the game, if Jacobe Lane's not playing a lot, not his absence because he did play 6 snaps, but him not playing a lot, did that have to do with the flu? And Riley did not give a direct answer at all. He just said, we've had people dealing with the flu. We look like a MASH unit. Most people were dealing with the flu this week. He did not mention Jacobe by name. So it's still a mystery for all the people on Twitter and online saying, oh, he was definitely sick, or oh, he was definitely benched. We don't know. It's somewhere in the middle there.
Yes.
But remember, he didn't play the first 2 series against Washington on offense, and then he did not play in the first quarter and only played the 6 offensive snaps in the second quarter, I think, against Nebraska. So something's definitely going on. He didn't have the flu against Washington. To me, maybe if he did have the flu, it's been a mixture of both, where he's maybe off the field, had some stuff going on, and he's got to bounce back because he had that great Wisconsin game, and he said he's not going to transfer. When he tweeted that out, people seem to already think he's gone. I have no reason to believe that, but I think it's kind of a gray area, and it's probably a mixture of both, I would say.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's tough right now, but we'd mentioned this too. When you do make a quarterback change, Miller Moss was a very popular figure in the locker room, and it wouldn't go over well with everybody. I think from Jacobe Lane's tweets, it didn't seem like that would over well. It gets emotional. Like, I know fans get very emotional about it, which is fine. That's what, fan is short for fanatic. We've seen former players on Twitter kind of going all in and torching some of these guys. I know one player sort of got really mad at Miller Moss for like what he thought his attitude was on the sideline, and then apologized later on. It's an emotional thing, this stuff going on. And Jacobe Lane tweeted something early. I don't know if it has anything to do with the limited playing time. I mean, the flu is probably a big part of it too, or it might be, like Connor said, somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, so we'll see. Riley was not asked about it yesterday at practice. Maybe he'll get asked about it on Thursday. But, I mean, you look at Jacobe Lane's snap counts all year. It's like 40, 50, 40, 50, 40, 50, and then the 6 against Nebraska. So that kind of stands out for sure.
Yeah. Jeff was saying, cough, cough, Lindale, cough, cough. Yeah, Lindale was in there. Taylor Ashton was in there too. People get, emotional about some of this stuff. But then, you feel bad. Like, there's advantages of being a quarterback. Like, if you're a running back, like, you might share carries and stuff. Quarterback, you're the dude until you're not. And Miller Moss was the dude, and USC was 4-5, and then he wasn't. And there's a lot of people in the chat that are like, you should have replaced him. He should have never even been the starter. Some people just think he was terrible, which I don't agree with. USC's had a lot of problems, and I wouldn't put the quarterback play as like in the top 3 or whatever, but a lot of fans do, and that's the position they see. They have the ball every time. Just put this other guy that's going to fix everything, and they won the game, which is good. I mean, like Connor said, I don't think it fixed everything. So we'll see how he does going forward. But yeah, I feel like it's not fair. Like, you wouldn't just based on his performance, but when you're the quarterback, like, just like the head coach, like, even if the head coach did a great job and you're losing, you're going to get more blame than probably you should deserve. And I think Moss probably got more blame than he deserved, but you're the quarterback of the team and you've lost 5 games and you're under 500. Like, that's not going to be good enough. And if there's an opportunity to make a switch, head coaches are going to do that. And that's what happened.
And he did deserve to get blamed too. It's not like this benching was crazy, it's shocking decision. Like,
right.
He wasn't playing great. So I totally get it. And with the transfer portal, like, you have to play Maiava if you're 4-5 to see what you have for next year, because if you don't play him, he's for sure gone. So the move made sense to me, and it was the right move. My whole thing with this is, like, everyone who says they're going to get way different results and everything's just going to be magically fixed, that is not true after one game, and that's the way I think it's going to stay. But let's see. They have 2 more games to go. Let's see how it plays out.
Yeah. All right. Well, we appreciate everybody if you're live on YouTube or Facebook, or if you're watching the replays of those. We appreciate when you come on and get in the chat and chat with us about what's going on with the team. We always love that. It's always a lot of fun. And if you wrote in questions or sent a review or listening on the podcasting different platforms, thank you for doing that as well. All right. So we're going to wrap it up. Any final thoughts, Connor?
huge one against UCLA, and then Notre Dame. Really fun to wrap up the year with 2 rivalry games. And all along, Ryan, what have I said? I said if they can finish the year strong and build some momentum towards next year, like, that'll be great. If everyone wanted the college football playoff, heck, after they beat LSU, I thought that was a possibility too. But
yes,
now looking at where things are, 7-5 isn't great, but if you beat Notre Dame, beat UCLA, and end the year on a 3-game win streak, get to a bowl game, maybe end the year on a 4-game win streak, that can really go a long way to helping towards next season. So these next 2 games, they're not what people hope for, the position, the spot, but there's still a lot to play for. And all along, I thought year 4 of Lincoln Riley, that's going to be the one. So let's start building towards it and see what happens.
Yes, I agree with all those. These are important games. You want to beat UCLA. If you have a bad season and you lose to UCLA, it's kind of like, ugh. But if you beat UCLA, there's a little something to it. If you beat Notre Dame, hey, man, you can be a spoiler and knock them out of the college football playoff.
If they lose, they should not be in the college football playoff because their schedule is dog food. So that's a big motivating factor, too. That's like something fans can sink their teeth into and get excited about. Yeah, hey, we didn't have a good year, but we knocked Notre Dame out, our big rival. Like, that alone is a massive reason to get up for that one.
Yeah, like Tuesday night, if you're watching ESPN, or Tuesday after late or early evening here, and you're looking for the rankings, and Arizona State is ranked, and Colorado, and like, oh my God, where's USC? You're not a factor in that at all, but you can be if you beat UCLA. It doesn't matter, but because that team's 4-6. But if you beat Notre Dame, then you become part of the story because you've knocked them out of the playoff. Maybe you get like a 5th SEC team in there or some crap. I don't know, some 3-loss team or whatever. But it matters. So there's an opportunity here to beat a Notre Dame team that's playing very well. So, but like you said, build a little momentum, get a couple wins. You didn't want to finish 7-5 again for sure, especially after winning the LSU game to start the season. But maybe your quarterback of the future. Maybe it's the recruit you just picked up. Maybe recruiting picks up. I don't know. We'll see. They need to build some momentum going into this, but getting a win Saturday would help a lot. So we'll see what happens there. All right. Well, that's going to wrap things up for Mr. Connor Morrissette. I am Ryan Abraham. Hope you guys all enjoyed the show, and we will talk to you next time.